welcome to the bonus episode of Satrangi. To give us an insight into how the concept of LGBT plus community is treated outside India, we have our friend Shreyan joining us from Mexico. Welcome. Okay, to start with, can you give us a general perception about how the people react to the concept of homosexuality in Mexico?
All right. Hello, everybody. And first of all, thanks Rohini and Adrija for having me here and letting me share my views. I think that when it comes to homosexuality, the Mexican society is pretty tolerant. Historically speaking, the concept of homosexuality in Mexico has been documented back to the times of several ancient civilizations in the region of Mexico. For example, the Mayans, which is a very famous civilization that existed during the time period from 1800 BC to 250 AD, and the Zapotec civilization that existed from 700 BC and 1500 AD recognized a third gender. This gender was called the mux, and in the Zapotec civilization, this was an intermediate between a man and a woman. Having a mux in the family was even considered to be a sign of good luck. But as time has progressed, a lot has changed since then. It all started with the Spanish colonization during the 16th century, where the King of Spain banned any occult sexual acts like sodomy and same-sex relation. Same-sex marriage has been legal in modern Mexico since the year 1871. But why did Mexico suddenly legalize same-sex marriage, as you might ask? Well, this was after gaining independence from Spain and then being occupied by France, right? So Mexico adopted a series of Napoleonic codes, which were very secular in nature. This meant that sexual conduct between adults in private was really none of the government's business. So they couldn't criminally prosecute same-sex relations or gays. However, as time progressed, there were many setbacks. These came during the early 20th century, for example, when the mayor of Mexico City, the capital of Mexico, promised to close all gay bars in order to, quote, clean up the vice. So I think that gives you kind of a historical context on how gays were historically treated in Mexico, how they were treated fairly well back in the day during the ancient civilizations, but as time progressed with the involvement of Spanish colonization and a lot of the Catholic Church activities, a lot of these safe spaces were rolled back for the LGBTQIA plus community.
Okay, thank you. That was pretty informative. So, we didn't know most of the facts, obviously, because we are sitting here in India. So, another question. What is the extent of constitutional protection given to the LGBT plus community by the government? So, are there any laws which restrict their rights in any sense?
The real progress came in the 1990s. Mexico hosted in the 1990s the first meeting of the International Gay and Lesbian Association, which was its first meeting outside of Europe. And in 1997, Patria Jimenez, who was a lesbian activist in Mexico City, was also selected for proportional representation in the Chamber of Deputies, which is the lower house of the Mexican legislative body, representing obviously a left-wing party. And there were a lot of LGBT rights advocates like David Sanchez Camacho, who was also elected to the Legislative Assembly of Mexico City. And finally, in August 1999, the capital of Mexico passed a law banning discrimination based on sexual orientation. And this was the first place in Mexico to do so. Till this day, however, only 18 out of 31 states recognize same-sex marriages along with Mexico City, which is a federal district. A lot has happened since then. The government, for example, has set up various commissions and a lot of panels in order to investigate and denounce all these hate crimes happening, and huge protests and rallies have been organized in order to stop the violence against the minority LGBTQIA plus community.
Thank you so much. So we'll move on to the next question. That is, do the queer people in your country face problems in the society after they have come out? What is your view on this question?
Right. So all the things I mentioned above, they're all just government legislation. They don't really mean that society itself has any obligation to accept LGBTQIA members. So to find a definitive answer to your question, we must turn to some facts and surveys. For example, in the May of 2015, Planet Romeo, an LGBT social network, published something called a gay happiness index, where they asked men from over 120 countries on how they feel on society's view on homosexuality, how they were treated by the people of their respective countries, and how satisfied they were with their lives in Mexico. So Mexico obviously ranked 32 out of 120 countries, which is a very good place to be in for gays. I mean, it's above Portugal. So regarding this, there's another survey I would like to cite, which was conducted by the Pew Research Center in 2020, which is not that far back, wherein 69% of Mexicans believe homosexuality should be accepted by society. And with the rapid development of Mexico and the rising middle class, I think this percentage of people accepting gays is only going to increase. So Mexico is in a really good trajectory to fully accepting the LGBTQIA plus and other sexual minority communities into their society.
Yeah, so I think it's a great improvement in Mexico, as I've heard from you. Like in India, still has a really, really long way to go in this context. So yeah.
Mhm.
So thank you so much for being there with us and giving us an insight to this topic in your country. I'm sure it has been pretty informative for all of our viewers. So it's interesting to get a wider picture of this concept from you. Thank you once again.
Thank you.